Okay, so as we're starting into our websites, there is one thing that I need to kind of emphasize here that seems a little mundane, and yet at the same time it's very important. Websites require a lot of files, and as we start to build the websites, you're going to realize you're going to have like image files, you're going to have all, logos and all these different files, colors and whatever that are going to kind of show up. So here's one of the things that is really, really important. If your folder looks like this in the Media Students, which it probably does, you have a combination of a couple of assignments that you need to just kind of combine. So one of the things that's really important is preparing your file space for a website. So make a folder for your alphabet project and throw everything in there. Make another folder for your digital portrait assignment, throw everything in there. And then finally, we're going to create a folder. So I just, I can go up to, I don't even know where it is in here. Control-Shift-N to create a new folder, or right-click. And I'm just going to call this Website Design, okay? And you're going to have a new folder, and everything, oops, I already created that folder. All right, everything that you do is going to be inside this website design folder. And that's really important because, as I said, you're going to have a ton of files, especially when we build this website and export it out. If you take a look, if I just make a new thing here, and if I just go to my website here, and I do all this by code, but I mean, you can just take a look. This is just all the files that I have in my website. And my website's moderately small. I mean, it's medium sized. I could probably trim it down a little bit, but I mean, look at all these folders. And in these folders are more pages and more images and more files. And I've got, an image file, and then there's all these graphics that I have. And then, I mean, like, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. So that's the first thing. It's really important. You create a folder when you're going to work with Muse. You create a folder, and inside that folder, everything is going to get saved. If you create a logo, that needs to get saved in there. If you have any Photoshop files or any image files or anything like that, that's all going to get put in this folder. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create a bogus website, and we're going to build this step by step. So I'm going to do the first few steps, and then you guys can kind of watch this website come together as we go. So the first thing to do, obviously, is to launch Muse. So I'm going to go All Apps and Adobe Muse. There it is. Launch that, and it's going to look a lot like this when it opens up. I do believe in default it comes up as a spaced window like this. I just maximize it, and there we go. The first thing that you want to do, and I deleted this, so I don't even know if I can remove that, but anyway, you're going to click New. And what will happen is in this space here, let's say you had multiple websites, they would all show up as different projects. Okay, so I made a whiteboard photography website for my previous class when I did the demo. I'm going to make a new one because I actually deleted that. It's gone. And I'm going to click the New button. When you get to the New button, you're going to get a couple of things that are going to happen here. And you're going to have advanced settings, and you can open this up. And there's just a ton of stuff there. We don't really need to worry about too much other than, one, we want to set a fluid width. Okay? That's really big, and that's big these days because of mobile technology and the fact that a large number of people are visiting their websites or visiting websites on their phones now. 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, it wasn't as big of an issue, but now mobile is so important. So you have to have a website that has a fluid width. Then you're going to have a max page width right here. I recommend we keep that at 960. That's kind of the standard for what most people do. I actually don't do that. I like to boost it up. We can change this, so let's leave it at 960. Then it's going to ask you for columns. And here is actually the one change that we're going to make. I recommend that we start with 9 columns. It's good to start with an odd number. Some people like 9, other people like 5. It doesn't really matter. I mean, really, honestly, you're never going to do much more than 5. So, 5 or 9 we'll do. We'll do 5 so you can kind of see what it looks like. And all these other things here, you kind of just are going to keep those all the same. Down at the bottom, you also want to check and make sure sticky footers is checked on. And a sticky footer basically is the bottom of the web page is called the footer. And what that means is that if your web page is a little short, let's say your web page doesn't fill the entire screen, the footer will still appear at the bottom of the screen instead of halfway up the middle. That's usually a good thing, okay? You might not want that, and I do believe we can change that halfway through the process as well. So basically, all you need to worry about when you're creating your new site is changing the number of columns to 5, okay? Now we're going to click OK, and it's going to come up and look like this. And it's going to start with a home page, and we have down towards the bottom a master's page. And the master page is actually where we're going to design our stuff. But we'll worry about that in a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to save it. So the first thing we do is we go Save Site As, and I'm just going to call this Weisbrod's T-shirts. That's what I'm going to do. This website is going to be a T-shirts website. And you want to make sure that you put it in your students, your media students folder, and then in your website design folder, which you should have created. And if you didn't create it and you forgot, you can always create it by hitting the new folder button right up there, and then we're going to save. So now, if I get out of here for a second, go back into Explorer, you can see that inside the website design folder, I now have an Adobe Muse file that is called Weisbrod's T-shirts. This is great. This is perfect. Okay, so now we can start to play with the basic look for my website as far as organization is concerned. So let's say I'm making a T-shirts website. So for right now, I hover over my home page, which is my landing page, and you see I have these pluses that kind of show up. And most of the time, 99.9% of the time, you're going to want to click to the plus symbol that's on the right, and you're going to create a new page that is actually next to that. And so my first one, let's call it men's, okay? And then I can create another one that's women's. And then another one that is children's, or kids. Yeah, kids is probably better. There we go. So now I've got 4 pages. Now what's interesting is how I decide to do the next subpages. This might be it for a website. That website might just have only a big bunch of stuff on there, and then that would be it. Or I could go and divide. So let's also create another one, but this time I'm going to use the plus symbol underneath. And I'm going to hit the plus symbol, and I'm going to say men's hoodies. So maybe I'm not just doing T-shirts. Maybe I'm doing, just apparel. And then men's T-shirts. Okay. And then maybe just for fun, men's socks. Okay. So there we go. Now you can see how this is branching out. And in a menu, what this might look like, and this all depends on the menu that you choose, is you might hover over, and it might say men's, and when you hovered over men's, then all of a sudden a drop-down might show up, and you would then have these 3 options. Okay, there's a lot of different ways that you can do the menus, and we'll go into menus later. So now I can do the same thing with the women's. And really, it's just a copy. I mean, it's really just a copy. So I would go women's hoodies, and then do another one, women's T-shirts, and then another one, women's socks. Okay, now, you'll notice as I keep doing this, this is getting pushed off to the right. One of the things that you can do is when you're done setting this up, right under here, there's a little double arrow icon. It's got 2 arrow symbols here, and it collapses. So if I click that, it's now going to collapse down, and I can continue to work on something else and continue to do this. So now I can collapse this one, and now I can add these 3 pages, double click on them to rename them kids hoodies, okay, double click, kids T-shirts, double click, kids socks. Now I can start to play with how I want to do, you know, whatever with the men's. And so I can click expand, and now I get all my pages back. And maybe under the hoodies, I do, maybe I only have like 4 or 5 each. So let's just say I do, let's say I can do a sports hoodie. Well, no, and that's, you know, remember, I'm just showing you how a regular website, you're going to be required to do a minimum of 5. So right now I've exceeded that minimum for the assignment.
Oh, 5 total.
5 pages total, yeah, 5 pages total. So that's a minimum. I will give bonus points for anything that you go beyond that. But what I'm trying to show you is now how you would actually build a website. So we're actually going to do one that's far bigger than that. So I'll do a sports hoodie, and then I'll do a, maybe there's a Star Wars hoodie. Okay, ta-da. And maybe, maybe there's a meme hoodie. There we go. That was an idea that somebody came up with last class. Now you can see again how this is branching out. And again, if I want to have more room to work, I collapse it. And each collapse works with each level specifically. So if I had this, let's try a little experiment. So if I collapse up here, let's see if it remembers that I had the other one open. It does, kind of cool. But if I collapse here and then collapse here, when I expand, now it knows. And you can see that there's pages underneath it. Okay, there's these little lines here. It looks like there's a stack of pieces of paper here. So it's, you know, it's pretty easy to understand. Now, let's just talk really quickly about the masters. And I'm not going to go into designing too much, but just want to show you how this works. So essentially, we now have these 4 main pages and then sub-pages underneath it. So now what's going to happen is if I were to take my master here and double-click, now I can get into the design. Okay, so I double-click on my master. Now I'm into the design area. Here's my header. Here's my footer area. And we'll talk more about how you play with the spaces on that and whatnot. But let's just say I want a color. So I'm just going to grab a box here, and I'm just going to make a colored footer here. So there we go. There's a color. I'm going to change the fill to a blue color. Okay, and then I'm going to click the resize button, and I'm going to go down here and I'm going to say stretch to browser width. So it's going to be set to 100%. So it's always going to equal the browser's width, right? Now, I'm not going to do anything beyond that. I just want to show you what happens. So then I click out of this, and notice every single page now has the same design.
Oh, so like masters are used to like set design for like everything.
Right. The masters are used to set your design. Now, you can have separate masters too. So I can go and create another master here. So I can call this master my home page, and so maybe that one would look different. And then this master might be my product page, or product list page. And then I might have a whole nother master for a product page for individual products. Guys. So then I can apply each master to a different page. It's actually really cool. So, and I'll show you how we do all that later, but what's really neat is now you can see how it's starting to design, and I can tell this one to be this master and this one to be this master. And so what's cool is I may have 20 pages in my website, but in reality, for most websites, you're going to have maybe 3 masters tops. So in a site like this, I might have 4. I might have my home page be completely different. And then my men's, women's, and kids pages might be a second master. And then my third master might be my product list page, where I just have a bunch of thumbnails of different types of things. And then my fourth master would be the individual product page, where I could, you know, give you the dimensions, have you drop down whether you want small, medium, large. You know, here's the price, here's the colors of the hoodies, that sort of a thing. Does that make sense to everybody? And what's really cool is it's all contained in this single project file. So right now I'm going to hit Save Site. So I've got a good start here. And then if I go back here, you can see it's just one file. Now that kind of goes against what I just told you 10 minutes ago about how you're going to have all these tons of files. Well, just wait, because we don't have any assets yet. As you start to bring in graphics, like photographs of t-shirts, the logo, buttons if you wanted a button or something like that, as soon as you start bringing in those kinds of assets, now you're going to start having to deal with file management, and it's really important that your files are in a place where that's easy to find, and so the best place to do that is just inside a web design folder, right? And then what I would actually do is, as I'm starting to add assets to my website, I will literally create a new folder, and I would literally call it assets, and then inside that folder I might make a folder for page graphics, which would include logos. I might make a new folder just for men's t-shirts, another one just for men's hoodies, and so on and so forth. Organization, good organization, will help you save time and frustration, especially when it comes to websites and projects that are big like this. If you don't have good file management and you don't know where your stuff is, I guarantee you, I promise you, that you will end up sorry that you did not organize things a lot better. And I say that from experience because I've been teaching websites or other stock projects like video projects and whatever, where you've got, 50, 60 files all, for one project. And if you don't keep track of them, you lose work. And when you lose work, you get frustrated, you get angry, and then you don't want to do the project anymore, right? I mean, it's just basic human motivation. So keeping your stuff in one place will be really important as you start to get these things done. Does this make sense to you guys? Okay, pretty easily. That's essentially how you create a Muse project and how you start to lay it out. And you can start to build your themes and stuff like that, even just by creating them. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about how we apply themes, how we design the actual graphics on each master for each page. We'll talk about that in separate demos, but I just wanted to get you guys to the place where you could start to design. Basically, it's a hierarchical structure, the structure of your website in kind of like a tree, okay? It's like an organizational tree here with all your pages. Go as far as you want with it. We can always delete pages later on, so if you're done and you've done your 5 and you want to be finished, that's fine. But I would recommend right now that you design this to the T. Get a couple individual product pages done, do all that, and you might even be able, I wonder if I can.
Wait, so when it drops?
Yeah, so I can't copy and paste, unfortunately, enough for that. Well, maybe I can. Duplicate pages. So I could technically duplicate pages and then have them move over, but I can't. I was hoping I could just drag all 3 of these and copy them over underneath the men's t-shirts, but no, sadly not. So you still have to create individual ones here, and do 2 more. But at the same time, it's really not that big of a deal, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And like I said, and then everything collapses so that you can make things nice and neat. Does this make sense to everybody? Does everybody have a good sense of what's going on?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's get started on it.